What's up, guys? Today we are checking out the new Vatic Pro Saga. While there aren't any drastic changes or crazy new designs like the former Oni, I do think that the Saga instead iterates on an already really good Prism and creates a well-rounded and balanced paddle. So, let's talk about it. As a quick disclosure, Vatic did send these paddles to me for free, but no review was guaranteed. They had no input on the video, they did not pay for this review, and all thoughts and opinions are my own. I do also have an affiliate link and discount code in the description that does help support this channel when you use it to purchase a paddle. And that just helps us be able to keep creating content just like this. The price of the Vatic Pro Saga is $149.99, and after discount code PBStudio, it can be purchased for $139.99. At the time of launch, there are 4 variants of this paddle. You have the Flash SH, which stands for short handle, the Flash LH, which stands for long handle, and then the V7 SH and V7 LH. Do be aware that the Flash LH is actually slightly longer than the Flash SH in length, so if you are choosing the LH, it's about 16.35 inches in length rather than the 16.25 inches that the SH is. Besides the length bump, the LH versions feature a 5.5 inch handle while the SH is 5.3 inches. On screen now, I will put up all the swing weight, twist weight, and RPM numbers of the units that I received. The primary things to note are the swing weights of the long handle versions. My V7 LH had a swing weight of 124, which is definitely on the higher end. So if you aren't a fan of high swing weight paddles, I would recommend staying away from this. The Flash LH came in around 120 and will be tolerable by most people, but it is starting to creep up into the higher territory. And then you have the Flash SH, which comes in at a swing weight of 113. Really, the only model that feels noticeably slow in the hand is the V7 LH. The regular V7 and then the Flash LH are about the same, and I didn't find them horribly slow, just not my personal taste of what I usually pick. So which one you end up picking depends on the swing weights you're accustomed to and your preferences in shape or handle length. I use the Flash LH quite a bit, and while it isn't my preferred swing weight, I thought it was a great paddle and not something that was all that hard to use. It just wasn't going to allow me to customize it very much. Now here are some other small details you may want to know. The grip sizes are 4.125 inches, which is always nice because it allows you to build the grip up and not be too bulky from the start. And then the inserts that they're using to shape the handle pieces are polyurethane, and these actually feel pretty good. There are a number of paddles on the market that use these, and they usually feel much more firm and solid in the hand versus the more foam-shaped pieces that some companies use and you can just kind of squish on the handle. It's not something that the vast majority of you are going to care about, but I do know for some people that is an important distinction that they prefer. Now let's go over some of the notable changes that have come to the Saga. First, they are claiming that the core they are using is imported and privately sourced. While I don't know this for certain, imported and privately sourced sounds a whole lot like they are using the US-made cores that companies like Engage and Paddletech have been using. If you listen to the John Q or Pickleball Pursuit podcast, you may have noticed that cell sizes have been getting a lot more discussion as of recently. This is because companies like Paddletech and Engage have been using larger cell sizes, and since everyone has loved what Paddletech has produced this year, a lot of people are starting to try that out in their own paddles to see if they can recreate some of the success that Paddletech has had. So the Saga is now using a core with 10mm cell size versus the traditional 8 or even the 6mm cell sizes that some companies have used before. If you'd like to know even more about cell sizes and their impact on paddle performance, I'll leave some links down in the description that you can check out. These paddles are built using what most people call a Gen 1.5 process. So they have edge foam, but they are not fully thermoformed. Vatic claims they've done some updated tooling and machinery to be able to make this process even better for their paddles, but we'll come back to that a little bit more later when we talk about the teardown. At a minimum, they must believe that what they're doing right now is more durable than what they've done in the past, because on the Saga only, they have increased the warranty from 6 months all the way up to 1 year. And anytime a company increases their warranty to a higher number, that's always nice to see. Next, they talk about a proprietary blend of surfaces, but they wouldn't disclose exactly what it was. They said they are using 2 layers of carbon fiber, one against the core and then one as the top layer, and then the middle layer is a composite material that they have created themselves. They claim that no one else is using this in other paddles, but since I don't know exactly what it is, I can't tell you whether or not other companies have tried this before. So those are all of the changes. As you can see, there really isn't a whole lot going on in terms of a radical design change. While the Saga isn't marketed this way, this feels like it's set up to be a turbocharged Prism. They are both built in a Gen 1.5 style, and the only difference between them that I'm aware of is that the Saga has the 10mm cell sizes and that new middle layer in the face layout. As we go through this review, the majority of my playtesting was spent on the Flash SH, followed by the Flash LH. I did hit the other models, but I've never been a fan of the V7 shape, and the V7 LH is too slow for my tastes. I don't think you're going to find a drastic difference in playability between the various models outside of things like the swing weight, and personally I felt like the V7 and the LH models felt a little bit more dense and substantial than the short handle versions. Now let's talk about the overall on-court performance. From the baseline, the Saga has a lot of power on full swings. However, it isn't going to be easy or effortless power like a Gearbox Pro Power, Yola Mod, or even the Ronbus Ripple. If you are someone who lacks any amount of power yourself, I don't know that you will think this hits all that hard. To me, it feels like once you pass a certain threshold on the swing, that's more when the extra power kicks in. So just know that if you're expecting absolutely effortless power and you're going to blast people off the court, this probably isn't that paddle for you. What I loved is that I could swing freely on my ground strokes. When I went to Worlds, I actually used the Flash LH for singles and thought it was fantastic. The combination of higher power on ground strokes and the really good spin was perfect for singles. I could swing very freely and put a lot of shape on the ball, which is great for singles. At Worlds, I actually ended up getting silver in 4-5 singles, which was a lot of fun. So for ground strokes, I feel like it's entering into the realm of a power paddle, but just know that it isn't going to hang with the elite power paddles that everyone likes to talk about right now. What makes all of this even more interesting is that at the net, this paddle still manages to retain a similar soft feeling as the Prism, which makes it much easier to control at the net and the transition zone. I would describe this paddle as higher on power for ground strokes, but lower on the pop spectrum. This combination, in my opinion, places the Saga more in the all-court category or at the higher end of the all-court category than it does in the actual power paddle category. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of high pop and high power paddles, so the Saga does it just a little bit different, which is nice to see, and I found it really enjoyable. While I have the most fun on court with high pop and high power paddles, the paddles that I tend to actually play my best pickleball with are around the all court category and usually have about average pop. Recently, the J2K has been my main, if you want to call it that. I think as a reviewer, it's hard to have a true main, but for the last few tournaments that I've went to, the J2K has been my paddle of choice, and I love that it's very balanced all around the court. Similarly, that's what I love about the Saga, but I'm getting more power on high balls and ground strokes than I am with the J2K. As far as the feel goes, I would describe it as dense, plush, and more on the muted side. And that's what I think makes it excel so well at the net. These are usually traits that you find in good control paddles. In fact, one of the things I was really loving about the Saga is that I felt extremely confident in the transition zone and at the net. Almost like I was playing with a more control style paddle, but then I had power when I was able to swing big. While I think the Saga and Prism are similar, I do think that the Saga feels slightly tighter and stiffer. Not by a lot, and I certainly wouldn't call the Saga a stiff paddle, but side by side, that is something I observed when testing, and that's likely what is giving the Saga the extra boost in the pop department over the Prism. If your expectation of the Saga is that it was going to be a full-blown power paddle, you're probably going to be disappointed. I don't think it's a true power paddle, and I would place it in the all-court category, and if I was being generous, I would place it at the bottom of the power category. Kind of like something in the realm of a Paddletech 14.3mm. Now, as far as the sweet spot goes, I would say it's about average or what you would expect for this type of paddle and shape. It isn't an oversized sweet spot like some wide body paddles, but it's also not small like a Gearbox or a Paddletech. By today's standards, average is the best word that I would use, and thankfully in the industry today, average is pretty good. I never found myself when I was on the court complaining about the sweet spot or wishing that it was larger. Now, I did make some changes to the paddle outside of the usual Hesicore that I add to my paddle. I did add about 5 inches of 0.5 gram per inch tungsten tape from Pickleball Effect, and I just added it near the bottom corners. Honestly, I just did this for a little bit of extra stability and just to see how the paddle would feel with some extra weight. And of all the paddles I've reviewed in recent times, I would say this is one of the few that I really don't know if it needs any weight. Of course, weight is always going to be up to personal preference, but even after adding it to the paddle, I didn't notice a large difference or that the stability was so much better and I just needed to keep it on there. Honestly, I could see myself just taking it off or maybe experimenting with something slightly different. So just know that out of the box, I think this paddle is very good and it doesn't really need weight like a lot of other paddles do. As far as the teardown goes, most everything looks good. I had 5 of my Vatic Sagas x-rayed to see how healthy the core was, and from all the images that I got back, they look good as a whole. Now, I will note that I cut open 2 Sagas and did see signs of core crushing, but overall on the x-rays, the paddles look very healthy, including the one that I have used for the majority of my testing. If you look closely in these images near the head of the paddle, you can see these small squiggly lines in between the cells, and after talking with John Q, who has also done a lot of x-rays, these small areas are usually small signs of core compression. However, I want to be clear that if you compare this to paddles that are really messed up on the inside, the Vatic Pro Saga basically looks flawless. In fact, if we compare it to other paddles that are healthy, such as the PaddleTech 14.3mm and Engage Pursuit Pro 1, you'll see that they look nearly identical. So all of that to say, I did notice a very small amount of compression in the x-rays as well as the teardown I did physically of the paddle, but this is quite a bit better than most of the paddles you see on the market and probably isn't something you need to be really worried about. But I wanted to share what I found so you as the consumer can make an educated decision on your purchase. If you'd like to see some images of paddles that aren't looking very healthy, you can see those on screen now. You can see a lot of the cells look very deformed as well as those small squiggly lines in between the cells, which are signs of core crushing. Now, I'm not going to make claims on Vatic's behalf that these paddles are never going to break, but in the time that I have spent with them, they have not heated up, there was no crunching physically with the hand, and overall, they look healthier than most Gen 2 paddles on the market. But I would just caution that there is a chance that these are not going to be 100% immune to core crushing. To wrap up this review, the Saga is not groundbreaking, and I don't think it's going to turn heads or catch attention like a lot of different paddles will, but I genuinely think it is a top performer in the all-court category or at the higher end of the all-court category with very appealing play characteristics. I would actually love to see the Sagas in different thicknesses to see how they would perform. I'd also love to see Vatic introduce some new shapes because since their existence, they've basically just done these long handle, short handle versions, the V7 and the hybrid, but I would really like to see a standard shape. I think the combination of a standard shape and a thinner version of the Saga would be something that a lot of people would probably really enjoy. I also think that would bring it closer to the realm of a PaddleTech, but hopefully with the higher stability because of the edge foam. But overall, the Saga is right in line with what I tend to play really well with, and I could see the Saga being in my main rotation for a tournament paddle along with the J2K. I really enjoyed my time with the Saga more than I thought I would, despite the on-paper specs not being that exciting. So, if you own a Prism and wanted something with more juice, then I think this is a great upgrade. It gives you elements that were great about the Prism while enhancing the things that the Prism lacked, which were power and a bit of pop. This will fit players who can generate their own power, but now you get a good boost over other paddles that are usually in the control to all court category when you can swing big. The great part is, it's not a paddle that should get you in a lot of trouble in the transition zone or at the net. With the pop not being very excessive, I think it makes it very easy to control. I would say this paddle is not for people who want a lot of pop and are seeking a very very fast paddle in the hand. But the other models are notably slower, and that may be something that isn't ideal for someone who wants a light or fast paddle. It may also not be for you if you don't like muted or plush feeling paddles. If you prefer stiff and very responsive off the face, this is not one of those paddles in my opinion. But all in all, this is a very enjoyable paddle and is a logical and very enjoyable upgrade from the Prism. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.